This is everything the Detroit Lions should do in free agency. First of all, thank you for joining me here today, and thank you for watching in. We're going to start off by going through free agents already on the Detroit Lions that they need to re-sign and ones that they should get rid of. And then we'll go through, and if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you know that this team is in need of a corner and another edge. And we're going to go through three of each. Three free agents that the Detroit Lions need to go and get and make this team go from a Super Bowl contender to a Super Bowl favorite. So, like I said, we're going to start off with every free agent the Detroit Lions should re-sign. So let's go ahead. Got the list right in front of me. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting with wide receiver Josh Reynolds. I know he had those drops in the NFC Championship game, but he was Mr. Reliable all year. Re-sign. Donovan Peoples-Jones. You can get this guy cheap. Jump ball guy. We should have used him a little more. I think he'll be a little more familiar with the team next year. Maybe he gets that connection down with Goff. I think you got to re-sign Donovan Peoples-Jones just for a cheap deal and have another wide receiver 3 or 4 that can be really good for you. Dan Skipper, 100% re-sign. Love his energy, hard worker, and he's a very good backup offensive lineman as well that can start anytime you need. Jonah Jackson, this is the guy I'm a little not sure about. I would re-sign him, but I don't want to have to pay him tons of money because we do have guys like Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown contracts coming up that we're going to have to pay. Jared Goff extension as well. I'm 50-50. I would re-sign him, though, if we can. Graham Glasgow, re-sign 100%. Great depth piece. He can play center, and he was a great guard. He was nearly a Pro Bowl guard this year. Vaitai, injury. He's probably going to retire either way. You can let him go. Romeo Okwara out. I would keep him for depth if we need to, but if we get a couple new guys, he's going to have to go either way. Charles Harris, always injured, probably going to have to go. Jalen Reeves-Maven, 110% re-sign. Absolute dog. And Emmanuel Mosley is a guy that I'm definitely okay with bringing back for a really cheap deal. See if he can get healthy and maybe get back in there. I think he could and be a very good depth piece. Kindle Vildor. I want to re-sign this guy. I liked what he did as a cornerback 2. I'd like to keep him as a cornerback 3 or even 4. I liked what he did for us, and especially, coming off the couch, I thought he was good. Will Harris, his time's probably up here in Detroit. I like him as a tackling corner, just not a very good coverage guy. So we'll probably let him go. I'm okay with that. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, 110% re-sign. Need that energy, need that mindset, need that talent back at DB. Absolutely, and he's very versatile as well, and he's one of the top 5 secondary pieces in the NFL. He's a dog. Michael Badgley, I like him as a kicker. If we're not going to count on him to kick field goals and you can get rid of him and get another guy, well, I'll keep him. And then Jake McQuaid, the long snapper. If you don't know him, he's a dog, and I want to keep him because he's good. Now, here we go. We're going to get into every free agent the Detroit Lions should target. So we're going to start with 3 corners. Ladarius Sneed, Jalen Johnson, Stephon Gilmore, and then 3 edges, Josh Allen, Brian Burns, and Danielle Hunter. So we're going to start off with Ladarius Sneed, who, I didn't really know a ton about this guy, right? And I went through, watched some film, and he seems to me like a really good tackler. He seems to me like he's also just really, he knows how to play the position well. He's a decent lockdown guy, maybe not as good as some of the other guys that we're going to talk about. But he is definitely a number 1 corner. Like, he would be the number 1 corner on this team. Sutton, people hate on him a lot. He's a good corner, man. Probably a corner 2 on most teams, but he's good enough to be a corner 1. This guy would be the cornerback 1 on this team, and he would help this team tremendously. A couple stats from the 2023 to 2024 season, starting with his interception and forced fumbles. He had 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble. He had 3.5 sacks last season, 71% coverage grade, and a forced incompletion percent of 13.3%. All of those are pretty highly graded. And to me, like I said, this guy's a guy who can come in and be our cornerback 1, immediately make this defense into what could be a Super Bowl contending defense, a top 10 defense in the NFL. Because outside of corner, I think our edge needs a little help, interior D-line. Corner is a need, and this guy would help our team. Jalen Johnson from the Chicago Bears, another Chicago Bear. We got David Montgomery last year, obviously one of the top 3 best free agent signings last year. I'd say arguably even our best because he was a monster. This guy right here would come in and immediately make this defense a top 10 defense. I was talking about it with L'Jarius Sneed, how he could. This guy is a bona fide number 1. He's the top 5 corner in the NFL. I'll go through some stats real quick, all right? Coverage grade of 88.5, forced incompletion percent of 16.7%. He had 4 interceptions this year, 1 forced fumble, and 10 pass deflections. All of those are atop of the NFL. This dude is a monster. He will come in and he will make this defense better automatically. He is a monster. This guy would be my number one target. Now we're going to move on to, this would be kind of a cool story because we do have the brother of this guy, Stephon Gilmore, his brother Stephen Gilmore, a guy who is on the team, and he didn't play this year. He's an undrafted rookie who I think could develop into a very good player because his brother was pretty damn good. Probably going to be a Hall of Famer, I think. I don't really know. I don't decide, but one of the best corners to ever do it. One of the 5 to 10 best corners to ever do it. And I know he's older in his career. No one really thought he'd have the year he did. But to read through some quick stats real quick, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, 13 pass deflections, as well as a coverage grade of 84 and a forced incompletion percentage of 14.7%. He's not the best corner available, but if we were to get this guy, he would still be our number one. And I know he's a little older, but you can sign him to a cheaper-ish deal to where, I'm sure he won't command the most money in the NFL. Whereas Jalen Johnson, he's going to be it's a big contract that you're going to take on. But the story that, him pairing up with his brother, I'm sure he'd love to do. And with the Cowboys having Darren Bland and as well as Trayvon Diggs, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep this guy and afford him. So we'll see. Let's move on to the edge rushers. We're going to start with Josh Allen. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the quarterback, Josh Allen. But for those of you who may have never heard of this guy, which I didn't hear about him until last season when he started to kind of come on. And then all of a sudden this year, he's become one of the most underrated players in the entire league. When I read these numbers, some of you might be shocked. I'm sure a lot of you know him. Josh Allen, edge rusher for the Jaguars, 17.5 sacks, tied for second in the league, 2 forced fumbles, 1 interception, 43 tackles, 94 QB pressures. The 94 QB pressures is second in the league behind Micah Parsons, which I don't know. I looked at different sites, right? And Hutchinson I thought was the pressure leader in the NFL. So I don't know which is right and which is wrong, but it said Parsons, and I think Hutch was like 4th or 5th. But I thought I'm pretty sure Hutch is like the league leader in pressures, but still. Those stats, incredibly underrated. No one talks about him enough. 17.5 sacks. This dude would come in and make an immediate difference and be huge. He's going to have to command a lot, though, so we'll see. Next up is Brian Burns. This is a dude who won't command at quite as much, and he's decent. He's pretty good. He was one of the top 5 edge rushers coming into this league, or this season, I should say. He only had 8 sacks this year. He had 8 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 32 tackles, and this 35 pressures. Not as impressive. You got to remember that he's on the Carolina Panthers, a team that lacks depth, talent. He's getting double teamed every play, kind of like Hutchinson is as well. I know Hutch. You got to remember Hutch had 5.5 sacks up till the Cowboys game. I think was when he first got his first sack. He ended the year with 8 sacks in 4 games, but he was legit one of the most dominant edge rushers to finish the season. He led the league in pressures basically the whole year, and I think he might still be. I'm pretty sure. I don't really know. I'm pretty sure he still is. Brian Burns, he didn't have as good of a season as he should have, but he would be a perfect number 2 alongside Hutch, and he gets pressures left and right and is very good as well. Danielle Hunter, this guy, he's a guy that you might have heard of. He's in the division. Minnesota Vikings, 16.5 sacks, tied for 5th in the NFL. 4 forced fumbles, 54 tackles, 86 pressures. Man, this is a guy, again, probably going to command a ton of money. He's going to be one of the highest paid edge rushers in the NFL. He was legit top 5 in sacks. Same with Josh Allen. He's going to be high paid. Brian Burns, maybe not as high, but he's going to command a lot as well. They're all going to command a lot. We had the 7th most cap space in the NFL. I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning. I think I was going to, and I might have forgotten, but I don't remember. We have the 7th most cap space in the NFL. We have the money to go out and sign one of these guys, whether it's a corner, whether it's an edge, or even both. I do want to definitely address corner and probably edge in the draft as well. You want to get young guys. You don't want to pay them as much. Getting the guy like Danielle Hunter, Josh Allen, Brian Burns on a 2-3-year deal, give them the money, let them come in and let them make a difference on this team. Let them help lead this team to a Super Bowl. Let them lead this team alongside Hutch. Obviously, Hutch is a bona fide number 1. He's a number 1 in any team in the NFL, including, all those other teams. He is probably the best. He's probably going to be the best edge rusher in the league next year, especially if he gets help like this. Bringing in Danielle Hunter would definitely help his team. 16.5 sacks says it right there. What a monster. What a great year from him as well. Would love to bring him in. Like I said, this team is just a couple pieces away. We went to the NFC Championship and should have won that game. We shot ourselves in the foot. With the team that we had, we were good enough to go to the Super Bowl. We would have beaten the Chiefs. We're better than them. We already beat them this year, and we would have won it all. We would have won it all this year. We would have won the Super Bowl, I think, if we would have finished that game the way we were supposed to. We would have probably won it all with the team we currently have. We're going to continue to get better. We're going to upgrade this defense, make this team give Jared Goff a top 10 defense, and see what happens. We could win 14 games next year. It's a pretty tough schedule. I'm probably going to predict 11, maybe 12. This team is well on their way to being a Super Bowl favorite. I think that if they make the right moves and they add the right personnel, they will be for sure. I want to see it happen. Brad Holmes, do your thing. We got mock drafts coming out next week. Be ready for them. I'm excited. And we'll do some player, analysis and stuff and highlights as well, film, breakdown, and all that. And looking at different players and draft prospects and who we can get. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment what you think about this video and the players that I mentioned. And I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.